guys only knew how hard it is for me to stand up here still and not be pacing like a coach. Okay? So, I talked with Pastor Megan about time and everything like that, and I told her I had 3 to 4 hours worth of material prepared, interactive activities, including Socratic methods, and some homework assignments for you guys. She said I might want to cut that down just a little bit. So, my wife and Janet told me, you don't have that much material. Don't take this teaching thing that seriously. What's wrong? Okay, so I'm going to take you on a little bit of a time travel, if you will. So I'm going to go back to my high school years, because realistically, that's kind of where my journey begins, if you will. I was very blessed. I had some really great high school teachers: Mrs. Eisinger, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Hockenberry, Mr. Hocklander, Mrs. Sackman in middle school, Mrs. Flynn in middle school. I had some really, really cool teachers, and it was kind of interesting because as I was sitting in those classes, I was that student, okay? And there's a number of you that are going to raise your hand when I ask this, because I want you to raise your hand if you were this student as well. But I was that student that was sitting at the back of the classroom, especially during Algebra 2, going, when will I ever use this? Yeah, how many? Yep. Okay. And so I was in the back of Mr. Caldwell's class. He was my Algebra 2 teacher, and I was sitting there listening to him, asking that question. When I graduated from high school, my favorite classes that I took throughout school was English. Those of you that know me, you're sitting there going, yeah, right, whatever. Okay. And so I went on to college, and in college, I started off with my major being in journalism. So I was going to be a writer. I was going to be a reporter. And then I figured out that you just report the facts. And so I went, wait a minute. I don't know that I necessarily want to do that. So I changed it to advertising my sophomore year. Sophomore year, I also met somebody, and I'll tell you just a quick story about meeting this somebody. So I was in a fraternity up at the University of Idaho. We were sitting in our informal living room. And yeah, she's going to be embarrassed, so everybody look at her when I tell the story. So we were sitting in the informal living room. We, of course, were eating pizza. We had music blaring, and in dances, literally dances, this young lady and a friend of hers, and they're just dancing, and we don't know them. We have no idea who they are. And that's actually where I met Janet, my wife. And I thought it was awesome because I like to dance too. In fact, one of the funny stories in college is one of the first times that she met me, I actually had broken the tendon between my thumb and my first finger. She goes, "How'd you do that?" I said, "Well, I was dancing. It was this really cool move where you go." Anyway, so that's how we met. And she was a graphic design major. Okay. And I was going to do advertising, and what I wanted to do in advertising was I wanted to develop messaging, and I also wanted to develop the plan on how companies would spend their money to place those ads. Okay? Did you know if you major in advertising, you have to take this class called art? So, you guys remember that my favorite class in high school was English. How many else in high school, your favorite class was English? How about science? Okay, how many's favorite was math? Okay, we got a few. Awesome. Okay. So as I was going through this, one of the classes that I took was a really cool class called statistics. Anybody know what statistics is? Oh my gosh, I have a confession to make. A number of you folks will not be surprised, but a number of you will. And those students that are in the room, you guys probably won't believe this, but it's a serious confession that I have to make, and that is, I like numbers. I love math. Yes, you heard me. I said I love math. I didn't know that in high school. So when I was sitting at the back of Mr. Caldwell's class, going, when will I ever use this stuff? I didn't know that. Somebody else did. Somebody else knew that I love math. And so I did statistics and data modeling, and started learning those classes. Unfortunately, the last year of getting my advertising degree from the University of Idaho required me to take art classes. So I transferred to another school, and I started doing business operations management. And oh my gosh, you know what I figured out? I figured out a lot of places in which that stuff I learned in Algebra 2, this is where you use it. This is when you use it. And so I graduated from college in 1992 with a degree in business operations management. And what that is we look at different functional areas of a business. We come up with ways to do those functions better, and we try to automate them. So I went to work for a number of high-tech companies. I worked in high-tech for just a little over 20 years, worked for some great companies, Micron PC, HP, and places like that. And the more I got involved in projects, the more I saw how you use math. And yes, how you use English. And yes, how you use science. And yeah, how you use art. Creativity, critical thinking. I saw how you do that, and so I was very lucky. And so at that particular point in time, when I first got into the high-tech industry, at that point in time, Janet and I were married at that point. We had a conversation, and I said, you know, at some point in time in my career, I want to go back and I want to teach and I want to coach. And so the plan was this year would have been the first year that I would have done that. But some interesting things happened. I got to do some really cool things with high tech. I got to be a data analyst. I got to be a forecast analyst. One of the downsides I had was during when I was working for HP, there was a merger that went on. I was meeting with my reporting manager from he was actually from Texas, and he asked me, where do you see your career in 5 to 10 years? And I told him at that point in time I was a senior data analyst. And I said, well, I want to go do this, and this. And he says, I noticed you didn't say management. I said, oh, I have no desire to be a manager. I don't want to do that. He says, oh, so you have no ambition. I said, that's not what I said. So at that particular point in time, I went, oh, well, the next step, obviously, then is to become a manager. So my last job in high tech, I was actually in a management position. I had a team of people reporting to me as a planning manager, and those of you that know me, I'm a planner by nature. So I was a planning manager, and I was sitting in meetings, and it was kind of interesting because I was sitting in these meetings, and the discussions that were going on were the same discussions that I had been sitting in back in 1992 and 1993. The topics were exactly the same. I'm sitting there going, do I really want to sit and do this? And so we actually sat down, Janet and I sat down. There unfortunately, there was a downturn, an economic downturn, and some investments and things like that kind of slowed down. And there were some changes actually coming on the horizon. And so Janet and I sat and we calculated and we figured out that instead of making that change this year, I actually did it 6 years ago, and I became a teacher. The interesting thing is, most everybody in this room knows that, so you go visit the doctor once a year, right, for a physical, things like that, right? You're supposed to do that. So I think it was my second year teaching, I was sitting down trying to figure out when to do that, and I was looking back at the history of my health chart. And again, this is probably a FERPA violation, so sorry, Kim, but it's on me, so because it's about me. But I look back in those years that I was in a management position. On average, I was averaging 10 to 12 visits to a doctor every year. My first 2 years in teaching, I went once a year, and that was to get the physical. And I sat down and I went, gosh, why is that? And I actually was talking to some friends with this old company that I used to work for, and they said, well, there's no stress then, obviously, in your current job. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, that's not true. I said, it is such a different stress. Because in industry, I'm trying to make money for some big corporate conglomeration, right? That's what I'm trying to do for them. That's how I'm guided as being successful. Okay? I got in, and when I started teaching, oh my gosh, you want to talk about stress? You're trying to help young people identify what it is that they want to do and what they might be good at, and giving them a taste of where they might want to take their career and how they can be good members of society. That's not stress. It really is, okay? But I love it. I'm telling you, I love it. And I did not know at the time. Again, thinking back to high school, Mr. Caldwell's class sitting in the back of the room. When am I ever going to use this stuff? What I figured out is use it every day. You use it every day, but you don't realize it until you get older, right? And you can actually look back and go, this is when you're going to use it. And so being able to help somebody out that way, to help them identify, they're still not necessarily going to believe you until they actually go through it, right? But that is the focus of what it was, and I never would have done that if I hadn't figured out that I love numbers, and that I could do that. And again, thinking back, I don't know necessarily that it was me, but it was all these opportunities that he provided to me for me to figure this out. And so I thank him, and I will tell you one last real quick story. I'm sorry that I went longer than the 5 minutes I was supposed to, but as you can tell by my outline, there's no way I was getting all that in 5 minutes. Okay? One last quick story. So after Janet and I got married, there's this box of stuff that we've actually been carrying around. I don't know what it is, but I know that the label on the outside of it says art stuff. I don't know who Art is, but if I have to pack his box one more time and move it, it's going in the trash. That's all I'm saying. Thanks, guys.